You sold over 4 million last year. So why does it feel like you just have a busy job and not a real business? It's because you're always chasing buyers, you're always getting ghosted, you get big closings, but you still have an empty bank account. You have no time, no plan, and no wealth. That all ends today. Let's fix that right here and right now. And so it's for this reason that I've created with 12 of my top teammates at C2 Realty Group the blueprint for Realtors Way to 500K. So right now, where you're at in your business, 500K might feel more like a dream. It might feel like a pie in the sky of somewhere you'd love to be, but you don't know how to get there. So this exact guide turns it from a dream into math. And this math is built on 5 pillars. And it's going to be a 3-year plan that's broken up into 90-day sprints. And you're going to have clear targets for listings, for income, for hours, and you're going to know exactly what happens. If you do X each week, you'll hit 500K and beyond. A couple weeks ago, I was lucky enough to get to attend a webinar put on by Place with Ben Hardy. And Ben Hardy recently wrote the book, The Science of Scaling. He's also written amazing books like 10X is better than 2X, Who Not How, The Gap and the Gain. Oh my God, The Gap and the Gain, so good. So anyways, The Science of Scaling. So Ben Hardy is one of my favorite authors. He wrote The Science of Scaling. So in this webinar, Ben Hardy went on to talk about the science of scaling. And what he talked about is when we have smaller goals compared to bigger goals, when you have small goals, you're climbing a small mountain. And when you have huge goals, you're climbing Mount Everest. And so when you look at a small hill, there's a million different ways that you can get up to that small hill. And if it's not very steep, you probably don't even need a beaten path to get there. You can just look at the hill, be a person who's kind of athletic, meaning you have some skills, some drive, and you could just full on sprint up that hill and make it up, and boom, you're there. Or maybe you're somebody who's a little bit slower and you need to take some turns to make sure you're hitting the parts that aren't too steep. But sure enough, you got there slower than the other person. But again, you still got up that small hill because there's just so many different ways we can climb and can accomplish these big goals. But when we look at Mount Everest, there might be only a couple ways to climb Mount Everest. And so I did a little research, and it turns out there's only 4 ways to climb Mount Everest. And of those 4 ways, only 1 or 2 of them are realistic because most people die when they try methods 3 or 4. But if they do method 1, they'll have most likely probability of success. If they try method number 2, a little bit lower probability of success, but still successful. Everything else, no way, no how. And so if we relate this to our business, if you want to build a 500K real estate business, there's probably really only 1 to 2 ways to do it. And so what I'm giving you here today is the exact math, the exact method. I know it because I've built it. I've built multiple 7-figure businesses in real estate. I've climbed this mountain, and now I'm returning back to share the path that I've walked, the path that I've paved. And currently there are 12 team members on my team who are working and climbing very similar paths. Some of these team members, the 12 people, are on step 2, and they can see the vision, and it's getting them more excited to get to step 3, step 4. And some of them are already on step 4, leaning into step 5. But what I can share is that within my real estate organization, we currently have 6 people who are earning over 500K per year. And there's not very many real estate organizations that can say that. I also have a real estate agent on my team who just barely crossed 100K for the first time last year. And they were so excited. They were like ecstatic, so happy that they accomplished this. And they couldn't believe it. But now that they accomplished that, they're looking ahead and they're saying, wow, there's so much more I can do because I've climbed this hill. And now I'm affiliated with people who are already higher than I am. And she is going to triple her business this year. So she's going to go from 100K to she's already pacing at around like 280 to 300K currently. And that's without seasonality, and by the way. So if you're ready to climb this mountain on a paved path, you're in the right place today. And so what we've done is we've put together this PDF that walks you through the exact path to walk on a realtor's journey, on a realtor's way to 500K. And so the path consists of 5 pillars, 5 steps to get up the mountain. So number 1 is a CEO mindset. And so the most important thing of having a CEO mindset is having complete and utter clarity of exactly where you're going and why. So the reason why clarity is so important is, well, there's a lot of reasons, but what I always remind myself about clarity is something that I've heard Sharata say often, is that a confused mind says no. So if we, as the CEO of our businesses, don't have a vision of where we're going, it's going to be pretty hard to get our mind in the right place to say yes to the next 4 steps that we know that are going to get us there. So first, we have to have ultimate clarity of where we're going. I've been coaching lately with Matt Plummer on finances. He defines it as you need to know your odds. And so if you know your odds, then you can start to reverse engineer the exact things that are needed in your business in order for you to get there. And then I think that's what's really important about a realtor's way to 500K and building a 7-figure business, is that it's not all only about business. And typically when there's holes and problems in our business, it's usually starting with holes and problems that are in our personal lives. So as part of that vision, as part of that CEO mindset, we also have to have complete clarity on what does our family life look like? How are we spending our time? How are we having fun? How are we resting and rejuvenating? What type of money are we earning? What's our net worth? These are the type of questions we have to have complete clarity on, because if we don't know these things, if we haven't made these decisions for ourselves, then life has this funny way of making those decisions for us. And then once we have complete clarity, the most important thing that we do is we publish it for ourselves, we write it out, and we put it in places that we find ourselves. And so Think and Grow Rich says, put this next to your bed. And that way you can read it before you go to bed and when you wake up in the morning. So you're constantly reminding yourself what this clarity is, because life is full of shiny objects. Life is full of distractions. And in this TikTok and AI world that we live in now, it's just getting worse and worse. So we have to have complete clarity and we have to have ultimate focus to getting there. When we first start in real estate, all we're looking to do is to make it, to make that first commission, to realize that we can win in this business. And then when we finish, we become hyper-focused on the jobs that give us the most results. We become the rainmakers of our business, the ones that drive the growth, that drive the revenue. And so what most of us find ourselves in then is what I call the messy middle. And so in this messy middle, we are still wearing every single hat in our business. And that feels very hectic. And so what we have to do in order to have a true CEO mindset is we have to have dedicated time in each and every week of time that we're going to be dedicating to CEO level activities. And so what I recommend is 3 90-minute blocks per week that you spend in ideation and complete focus on your biggest constraints in your business. And ultimately, when you're doing this, you have to come in with a mindset of my dollar per hour matters to me. Because some things that you do in your business, they are minimum wage level activities. And some things that you do in your business, like being the rainmaker, are per the 500K real estate agent blueprint, $250 hour per activities. So for example, you going on a buyer strategy session for the first time with a client, that is a $250 per hour or more activity, probably more. I'm just averaging it on the 500K. But if we start taking out those minimum wage tasks, it becomes much higher because you have to work less hours. And so we have to spend as much time in those levels of genius where we're making those higher levels and less time in these lower income levels. And so in the playbook of the Realtor's Way to 500K, we go more into depth on the exact mindset and steps and exactly how to do it. Now, step 2 is financial stability. And so what I hear a lot of real estate agents say is, I don't know where the money goes. And I'm somebody who resonates with this feeling very much. And so 14 years ago, I read this really great book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. It's like the most cheesy, horrible title for a book. But this genius, this very smart guy, Ramit Sethi, wrote the book. And basically, the reason why he chose that title is because he A/B tested it on Google, and the Google pay-per-click results were just off the charts for "I Will Teach You to Be Rich." And so that became the title of the book, as cheesy as it is. But the book is pretty amazing. So 14 years ago, I read that book, and my wife and I at the time were just boyfriend and girlfriend, but we had just decided to move in together. So we read the book together, and we set forth to do the principles within the book, which is essentially having a budget, separating your money into different bank accounts so that you're not touching the money that is dedicated to like vacation or your business. So you're operating out of an account that's limited to what your living expenses are. And then finally, bookkeeping to make sure that you're following through with everything that you're planning on doing. And so 14 years ago, my wife and I set up this system for ourselves, and we moved in together. We combined our finances before we got married. And because we had a really great plan and a ton of clarity on what we were trying to accomplish, and a really good system that we were utilizing, we were able to grow wealth very quickly. And we were able to start buying investment properties when we were still in our 20s. And so in 2017, I started buying investment properties, and those have grown tremendously over the years. I have one property that I bought in 2017 that's almost 4x in value, and over the last 8 years. So pretty impressive stuff. But it's not all positive. This funny thing happened once I started making money. I started making bigger checks, and I started feeling more confident in myself financially. For some reason, I abandoned everything that got me where I was at. I abandoned it all. I said, well, I have money now. Why do I want to have a budget? I have money now. Why would I want to pay attention to where my money goes? And so I completely abandoned all the principles that got me to where I was. And last year, I had my worst financial year in 12 years. And it was because I let lifestyle creep get the best of me, and I lost touch with what I was actually doing. And I allowed my businesses to focus more on growth than profitability. And I suffered greatly. And this time last year, I was dealing with a lot of stress financially. And the way that I was able to get out of that stressful place was going back to that same methodology that I had learned 14 years ago that got me where I was, and re-implement it. And so now my team has been coaching with Matt Plummer, who runs a very similar system where it's all based upon budget or cash flow planning, banking, and bookkeeping. And so this past month, I ran a really great budget. And it was this most amazing thing where budget actually became freedom. See, I thought financial freedom meant I didn't have to worry about money. It thought it meant I didn't have to think about it. Where in reality, it was the discipline of my budget, it was the discipline of my money, which actually made me feel the most free. In the guide, we go deeper into exactly how to run that playbook of budget, banking, and bookkeeping. So we go deeper into that, how to do it and why, what's involved. And then once you have a very clear financial stability, then we need to shift our focus into our business on what yields the highest results and pays us the highest amount of money. What is that highest per dollar activity that we can do? And so what I know is that if you stay super buyer heavy as a real estate agent, then you stay in your car and you stay in your feelings. And so what this guide does is it shows us that we need to drive production specifically through listings. And one listing can create hundreds of conversations, and how many leads, convos, and appointments you actually need to hit your listing goals. What I know is that all of the top agents in the country are listing agents. And so I took a very non-traditional path in my real estate career because I started first with property management and then added becoming a listing agent to that business. But when I look back at my property management journey and how I ran that property management business, especially in the early days, it looks exactly the same as the way that real estate agents run their buyer business. And I was taking all the calls, I was doing all the showings, I was doing all the accounting, I was doing every single task, and I was on the go, 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 go. And it was only when I started to add listings as a major focus is when I saw my income multiply based upon the activities I was actually doing. And so, what I've learned since starting to become more of a listing agent is that all listing agents are great marketers. They specialize in marketing. They don't see themselves as real estate agents, they see themselves as marketers and business owners. And so I know a lot of people have this really weird relationship with marketing, specifically because the most popular way of marketing of the last 5, 10 years, whatever it's been, has been social media. And social media makes a lot of people nervous. People don't want their personal life on display. They feel uncomfortable on things like this where it's live and all of these things. And I understand all that. And I felt the same way. I mean, if you go back and look at my early videos, if you go back and look at my videos, if you're watching this video, you see that I'm still not very good at it. But you know what? I was laying in bed last night and I watched a video that I did like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, dang, you know what? That was pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. But it wasn't because it was my first video. It was because I'd been doing this now time over time and getting better at the craft. And I'm still not very good. I mean, if you still go look at, like, you go watch Eric Hatch or one of these guys, they're amazing. Alex Sheplack, any of them, like John Sheplack too. They're amazing marketers and they're light years ahead of me. But I can see not the gap between me and them, but the gain that I've made since I started to where I'm at. And I know that if I continue on the path of repetition, I will also become a great marketer like that. But if you're somebody who just doesn't want to do social media because it's just against everything in your core, I completely understand. The good news is you don't have to. Social media is marketing, but marketing is not social media. So you don't have to do social media to be a great marketer. You just have to be doing marketing. And so you have to have a really great plan for your one-to-many. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. Social media just happens to be the easiest, fastest path there now. But for you, that might not be the right path. So someone on my team, Max Giffen, who recently has become a great listing agent, he signed 9 listings in the first quarter of 2026. He's only a third-year real estate agent. He does not like social media. He has no interest in getting social media. He has a Facebook account, but he doesn't use it much. He has no interest in getting into it. But what he does is he does a one-to-many strategy where he handwrites notes to every single person that he gets in contact with, and it has small branding of him, but the note that he writes them is all about them. And so Max is still a great marketer, even though he doesn't do social media, because he's taking a path that he loves and he feels comfortable in, and he's going all in and staying consistent with it. So all listing agents must be great marketers. All listing agents don't have to do social media, but you do have to do marketing. And so in our playbook, we go more into how to drive production specifically through listings, which I think is the most important thing for you to build your business around. So step number 4 is once you're driving production through listings, you then have this point in your business where you just become way too busy. And so like Max, who I just mentioned, he is in this messy middle. There's several other people in our team that are in this messy middle where I am very busy. I have a lot of listings. I'm also working a lot with buyers because buyers still pay me quicker. And how do I balance all of this? And so the main reason that you're feeling too busy in your business is because you're spending way too much time with $20 an hour tasks when you have a $200 or more per hour skill set. So what we do in the guide is we take you through a 2-week time audit where you can exactly identify what to delegate first, which is transaction coordination, house cleaners, simple admin, things like that, so that you can get some of your life back without losing any of those deals you're working on. So don't go put leverage into your buyers that you're working with right away, because that's going to be the quickest way for you to lose your income. Put it first in the things that are not completely non-revenue generating. Then once all of those things have leverage within them, then we can start adding it to the parts of our business that have income tied to them, but just less revenue than the highest revenue generating activities. Hope I said that okay. And so usually we're feeling overwhelmed because we're responsible for everything. We're wearing every single hat. So we're like, oh my God, the contract has to go out. Closing days tomorrow, I have to attend the closing. This client has 10,000 questions, and I have a home inspection that I have to be at in 30 minutes. And so we feel stuck and we don't think there's a way out. But the reality is there is. And we just have to have the CEO mindset and understand which activities in our business need that pieces of leverage and how we can best implement them. So today I want to give you just like the easiest way for you to like implement this right away, no matter where you're at in your business. You could be selling 0 houses or selling 1,000,000 houses. But if you implement this framework right away, if you just leave here with this one thing, it's going to do amazing things for you. And that is a framework that I use every day for myself, which is called the 4Ds. The 4Ds are when you look at a task or your task list, you ask yourself first from the 4Ds, number one, what happens if I just delete this task? What happens if I just don't do it? Does my life change for the worse if I don't do this thing? If the answer is no, delete it. Get that thing off your list because it's just causing chaos in your mind and in space, and it's distracting you from the things that are actually important for you to do. So number one, can I delete it? If it's yes, get it out of there. If it's no, we go to step number 2. Can I delegate it? Now, a lot of us might not have people that we can delegate to yet, so that might be an automatic no. If you do have people in your business you can delegate to, who's that person and what context do they need in order to do the activity at a high level? We also have to be very realistic that we are high performers. We like things done a certain way. And that if we delegate something, we have to be okay with it being done at a lower level than what we expect of ourselves. So like what I typically say is if you can get something to a 6 or a 7 and delegate it, you're usually okay. I think I'm more okay with being on the lower end of that. Some of you might be more perfectionist than I am. And so if you are more of a perfectionist, I recommend more the 80% context of how can I get this to 80% of my output. But if your expectation is 100% the same way you do something, then it's unrealistic and you never will be able to delegate. So if you don't have a person to delegate, then you go to option number 3, and that becomes design. So how can I design a system, or how can I use AI in order to take care of this? And so a lot of times we're doing things in our business, like sending a specific email over and over again. That's the same email that could be a template. If we just took 20 minutes and created a template, all of a sudden we'd save ourselves all the hours of time that we've been spending writing that same exact email. Alex, our sales manager, and I had a great conversation yesterday, and he was talking about, hey, I just feel like when I get a listing, there's like 8 steps of the listing process that are exactly the same every time. My clients have the exact same question. I have the exact same response. And then we have the exact same result. And he had the realization, why don't I just go film videos for those 8 steps to happen every single time that my clients have a question on? And that way, instead of me being reactive and waiting for them to ask me, I can know that that question is coming, send them that video, and put them at ease and lower that level of anxiety. And so that's building a really great system and designing something so that you're able to get back time. And then the 4th D is if all 3 are no's, you can't do those 3 things, then the 4th thing is do. And so as the rainmakers in our business, as the CEOs, it doesn't mean that we don't do the work. It means that sometimes we take all of the work. And so sometimes it needs you to be the one that punches it in. And so if 3 fail, number 4 is do, and you got to go do it. Step number 5 now is multiple streams of income. And so I think this is where people get most excited. And this really honestly should be the place that you get the most excited. Because what we can do with our businesses is do one activity and get paid multiple ways. And I think the biggest problem in media and education around multiple streams of income is a lot of the experts out there teach you multiple streams of income and how to earn passive income in methods that are outside of your craft, that are outside of your genius. Like, for example, Gary Vee. I love Gary Vee. He has amazing stuff, amazing content. But one of his big things that he always pitches is, hey, you need to go get a side hustle. And his biggest side hustle that he pitches is that you should go to garage sales, buy items, and then go and sell them for more at like other garage sales or track meets or go on eBay. And it just completely takes you out of your zone of genius. It takes you completely out of where you're earning the most money already in your life. And so instead, you need to develop multiple streams of income that are in the exact same lane as where you're making your primary income. So that way you're just doing one activity, but getting paid different ways. And so if you keep asking, how do I start investing? This guide is going to give you a really simple order of how to get there. And so what it looks like is you need to stabilize your income. So if you have debt, things like that, you need to get rid of it. Then you need to get very clear on your expenses so that you're 2 months ahead on revenue. So two to 6 months. I'm very open to risk. I love risk. So don't necessarily go with what's comfortable for me. For me, I feel comfortable 2 months ahead. A lot of people say 6 months ahead. Answer is probably somewhere in the middle. If you're very open to risk, you can be more like me on the 2 month side. And if you're more conservative, be on that 6 month side. Then you get your first rental property. You can also do things like add a revenue share. You can build out a team. And then you can also start getting vendor referrals. So like if you're referring roofing or pest control, getting referral fees back for that stuff. On our C2 team, our agents get paid income for referring property management. And so that's a great way that they're able to add multiple streams of income in their business. So it's very, very important when you engage in multiple streams of income that you get rid of all random side hustles that pull you out of your core production. And what I've kind of realized over the last maybe 5 years or so, since I've really been like compounding wealth and net worth, is that the rich understand a money game. And I'm honestly not like a big Robert Kiyosaki guy. I don't agree with everything he says. He mistells his story, the way he made his money. So it kind of turns me off a little bit. But he did write an amazing book called Cash Flow Quadrant. And the Cash Flow Quadrant talks about 4 quadrants that we earn money in. And so this is really all about the money game. And so Cash Flow Quadrant number 1 is you earn money as an employee, where you're just straight trading time for a paycheck. And this is good if you need security, you need stability, you need something safe. But you'll also always make the least in this quadrant because the person who takes the biggest risk earns the biggest rewards. So if you're always only living in a safe place, you never give yourself the opportunity to earn exponential amounts of income. Place number 2, where real estate agents find themselves, is self-employed. This is all pretty much small business owners. You're pretty much still trading time for money, but you're just doing it for yourself as opposed to somebody else. But if you were to stop working, if you were to stop selling houses, if you were to stop showing buyers, if you were to stop calling expired listings, your income completely stops. So when you're self-employed, you're in a quadrant where you're still relying only on your time. You're still trading time directly for money. So that's kind of like the left side of the quadrant. Now he moves over to the right side of the quadrant, or to the top right, where you become a business owner. So when you're a business owner, you don't trade time for money. You start owning a system that trades for money. And those systems should work without you, or they should work with very little input from you. And that's the leverage piece. You also should employ others to generate income. And that means you need really smart people around you in order to help you build that business. And then the last one where you want to really get to, where is your most effective place to earn multiple streams of income, is as an investor. And when you become only an investor, that's when you're truly playing the money game. Money works for you. Income is just capital. It's stocks, real estate, businesses, and then your money makes money. So that way you're not ever spending the money you earn. You're earning money, which is then getting invested. That money is then making more money, which is then paying dividends to you, and that becomes what you live on. But ultimately, what I want to leave you here with today is, from these 5 pillars, is right now, no matter where you're at in your business, you are the asset. And this guide is going to help you rewrite your identity It's going to help you calculate your real hourly rate. It's going to help you build a morning routine that matches what 500K producers do. And with this, you just need a really clear action plan. None of us need hype. None of us need motivation. What we need is a clear guide and a roadmap of exactly what to do on day 1, week 1, day 90, year 2, all the above. And so this guide gives you the exact checklist, so you don't have to think, you can just execute. So if you are somebody who is selling 4 million or more, but still is getting overworked as a solo agent, then download the Realtors Way to 500K today. It's one read, it's one plan, and it's a business that finally matches your effort.